Hello, folks. It's official. Earlier this year in August, the New York Times reported, based on information leaked to them from sources within the bureaucracy, that the Trump administration would be lowering the refugee cap from 125,000 in Biden's last year, 2024, to just 45,000, and devoting 40,000 of those positions to white Afrikaners. That's what reported in August. I told people not to pay much attention to that story. That's leaked information that hadn't been decided yet. Then in October, the Washington Post reported that the number had dropped to just 7,500 based on inside sources and information, which they didn't show to the public but claimed to be true. Well, it was released today in the Federal Register. It will be published tomorrow. A letter indicating that, in fact, that is true. 7,500 is the target that the Trump administration has set for refugee admissions into the United States in fiscal year 26. Well, folks, we're in fiscal year 26. That began on 1 October 2025 and runs through 30 September 2026. That means we have at most 11 months left in the year, and most likely, given the current shutdown of the government, it won't even occur as we go through the next month. So with that in mind, that means that over the course of approximately 10 months, the Trump administration plans to allow in, of the 7,500, 7,000, as it describes, Afrikaners from South Africa, or an average of 700 South Africans per month coming to the United States approved as refugees. Now, that might sound like a small number, but it's actually very encouraging news for South Africans who wish to participate. First, we know that the figure of people who've already been processed are scheduled to fly to the United States and can't go because of this determination, awaiting it, and for the budget crisis to be resolved, was over 700 over a week ago. That number likely is 1,000 now. So those 1,000 people would, of course, be included in that 7,000 figure. That means another 6,000 people who've yet to finish their screening and approval process will be able to come over to the United States in this year. Now, I should caution people that that figure is not a law. It's not set in stone. It is a cap that the administration sets. But as we've seen in the past, caps get exceeded because of crises. Should things get worse? Should a lobbying group be able to convince the Trump administration or a rich and powerful South African, Elon, Peter Thiel, someone else, should someone like that or a lobbying group be able to influence the president that the cap needs to be increased? That's at his discretion to do. We'll see what happens. Whatever the case is, a lot of people in South Africa are going to make big use of this. They're going to run rampant with it, particularly in the fake media in South Africa, and claim that this is all, that's all. Oh, I guess it's not real. And they see it's only whites. But here's the problem with that, folks. The presidential determination, which I have in my hand here, and you've seen on the screen, talks specifically about how this presidential determination still has previous proclamations and executive orders that apply to it, including the executive order which made all of this possible earlier this year. That says here, Executive Order 14204, which provides for refugee resettlement of Afrikaners from South Africa who are victims of unjust racial discrimination. That is the executive order President Trump issued earlier this year in February, which has allowed South Africans to come over here. Now, the media would have you believe in South Africa, in America, in Europe, that these people were entirely white South Africans. Initially, they lied to you and told you they were only farmers because they're stupid and they don't listen to what Trump says and they don't read the orders and they don't pay attention because they believe whatever cockprot anyone tells them, including for months insisting that only 49 came over when the figure is 59, which I told you from day one and was correct, 59. Also, they have told you from day one that only white farmers came over, and they're liars. I've told you that the farmers were a small element of those who came over in the first batch. Half of them were children under the age of 18. And most of the white folks weren't even Afrikaans speakers who came over in that first batch. And there were colors in that first batch and an Indian fellow. But they can't report that because it runs contrary or counter to their fake narrative, which is intended to demonize white South Africans who wish to escape the ANC's miserable rule. Frankly, tens of millions of South Africans would love to escape the ANC's miserable rule. But this opportunity is made available to racial minorities. And instead of telling the truth about what's going on in South Africa. They cobble together 44 elites, connected, wealthy, privileged South Africans who are Afrikaners and claim to speak for 2.8 million Afrikaners. Well, the only question we have to resolve with this, we now have a figure, which is good news. That is good news. That means the government is committed to taking 7,000 more South Africans who are racial minorities into America in this fiscal year, an average of 700 per month over the last 10 months a year. That's very good news for South Africans who want to get out. The only question is, will that include Indians and coloreds? Well, as I said, this relies on Executive Order 14204, still in effect. That executive order, thus far, has brought Indians and coloreds to America. Earlier this afternoon, in my broadcast, when I announced these events and analyzed it, several people who were not white Afrikaners were in the chat who've already been processed, a few waiting to fly over, others finishing up their process now. So, all things being equal on the scale, I would anticipate and expect that 7,000 South African racial minorities will come over to the United States in the next 10 months at a minimum. Should that number be exceeded, I wouldn't be surprised. That's not a promise. So rather than fret, rather than listen to the cock prodders who will tell you it's not worth your time and effort, if it's of interest to you, continue. I finished this by saying I have never encouraged any South African to leave their wonderful country. It's heartbreaking that you feel the need to leave such a wonderful place. But it's suffering, and its people are suffering. And especially racial minorities who are being targeted by the government with unjust racial laws, with expropriation without compensation, with the communization of its healthcare sector, with the imposition of a colonial language onto Sotho speakers, Tswana speakers, Afrikaans speakers in the use and dictate that English be used as a medium of instruction in all schools. People are suffering, and I understand why you want to go. If this is something that appeals to you, it's something you consider. It's something you should consider. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi? I'm telling you that this is good news. Most people will spend this to tell you it's bad news. We have a target, we have a commitment, and we will see people come over. Up till now, it's been who, when, what? Is anybody coming over? All we know for certain is approximately 400 South Africans have arrived already, and that's after 8 months. Now we're talking about going from 400 South Africans in 8 months to a further 7,000 in 10 months. And some people are crying in their beer. I think people's focus is not on the try line. Somehow they're kicking the ball into touch. What say you? Cheers.